So, okay, saya akan bagi presentation mengenai OECMs ataupun maksud dia Other Effective Area-Based Conservation Measures. So, ini projek ni sebenarnya telah bermula pada tahun 2019, projek yang dijalankan oleh SERB. And it's a project funded by the SGP GEF Small Grants Program in Malaysia. So, unfortunately, the project is ending end of this month. Yes, very soon. So I'll be sharing with you about what is this OECMs, what is other effective area-based conservation measures, and what we've been doing for the past few years in terms of exploring this concept here in Malaysia, lah, not in Sabah but in Malaysia. Okay, a bit gelap, but okay. So the project aims, it's looking into strengthening area-based in situ conservation of biodiversity in Malaysia. And our main activity is to investigate and explore the OECM approach or the concept in Malaysia, what it means for Malaysia, how we can try to achieve it here in terms of achieving OECMs, and also testing out the criteria here in terms of assessing which sites would be suitable or can be candidates or potential OECMs. So as I said, the time frame, we started end of 2019. Unfortunately, the timing memang tidak sesuai lah because we kind of lost a lot of time in terms of COVID and not being able to go down and test out the criteria in visiting sites. But we tried to, we did our best lah in terms of testing it out in several sites. Next, please. Okay, first, before I go into looking into OECMs, the definition of OECMs, criteria of OECM, semua tu kita tengok in terms of policy basis dulu. What does it mean at international and national level? What is OECMs and apa kita punya commitment lah sebenarnya? So in terms of OECMs ni, it's actually area-based in situ conservation because they cakap other effective area-based conservation measures. At international level, we are committed to the CBD Strategic Plan for Biodiversity 2011-2020. So this is the Aichi targets, ada 20 targets. And OECMs ni specifically mentioned under Aichi Target 11. So Malaysia ni sebenarnya kita committed lah to IUCN punya CBD punya kira strategies, resolutions. We are a party lah, so we are binded to whatever is agreed at international level. Contohnya kalau ministry goes there, attend the meeting, okay, Malaysia kami sokong, kami akan commit, so we have to know what our commitments are lah. So salah satu commitment tu OECM sebenarnya. And although 2011-2020 Aichi target sudah kira habis lah in 2020, but banyak belum kena achieve lagi sebenarnya. So post 2020 kita ada Global Biodiversity Framework ataupun targets yang kira barulah di revise balik. Back. Itu international level on top. Kalau di bawah ni kita actually committed to the National Policy on Biological Diversity. So ada mention of OECM di situ. So in terms of two. Nanti I can show you in terms of the relevance to watershed and what the catchment areas. Okay, next please. So kalau kita tengok Aichi Target 11 specifically, by 2020 at least 17% terrestrial inland waters, 10% coastal and marine areas. Semua tu, it mentions protected areas and other effective area-based conservation measures. So this target came out in 2011 already. So that time ada sudah OECMs ni mention. So maksudnya sudah lebih 10 tahun sudah at international level konsep ini sudah kira introduce. But only the term saja introduce. Nobody knew what OECMs meant. Nobody knew how do we identify OECMs. What is the concept? Apa guideline? Apa criteria? What does it mean? So it's been left there for quite a while lah. Until in 2018, then they came up with technical guidelines on how do you identify OECMs. The definition only came out in 2016 for OECM, so quite recent. So a lot of countries across the world kira baru diving into this OECM approach or this concept. So kira Malaysia in terms of Southeast Asian countries, okay lah, we tested out. Recently, if you've attended the Asia Pax Congress, so there's a lot of talks on OECMs. Negara-negara lain di bagian di Asia ada sudah yang test out lah. Contohnya macam the Philippines, the Greater Mekong area, so Myanmar, Thailand, Indonesia pun ada test out. Tapi dong punya semua negara approaches lain. So when I presented, I can tell my approach is very different lah. Okay, next please. Kalau kita tengok yang recent ni, this is the post 2020. So after Aichi target sudah habis 2020, what is the next action? So they extended it for another 10 years lagi, 2030. So initially Aichi targets, it was mentioned in Aichi Target 11 for OECMs. Now it's Target 3. Tadi 17% terrestrial, 10% marine. Now it's 30% land, freshwater, sea areas. So dorang combine. So there's an increase of 3%. This is what Malaysia needs to achieve, and they need to report it back to IUCN. We need to achieve 30% of protected areas and other effective area-based conservation measures sebenarnya. Next please. Okay, macam tadi saya cakap, national policy tu memang sudah ada mention tentang OECM juga. So sini by 2025, at least 20% terrestrial, 10% coastal, 30% jugalah. So actually kalau kita tengok perbezaan Aichi target yang sebenarnya yang mula-mula dengan Malaysian punya, kita ada advance sikit lah. Kita quite ambitious in terms of trying to conserve and protect terrestrial and marine areas. Okay, so tadi tu saya sudah mention, in terms of OECMs, ada commitment international and national level sudah. Memang sudah ada. So there's mention OECM all around already. We have commitments. Kalau ikut national pun, although it's mentioned in our policy, sama juga, tidak ada guidelines, tidak ada definition sendiri. Orang mention sajalah, we have to achieve it. But nothing has been done since the policy was developed in 2016 lah. So through this project, kami test out what is this OECM concept. Apa maksud OECM ni? What are the criteria? Apa kawasan-kawasan ataupun sites yang boleh dijadikan sebagai OECM? Okay? So saya share dulu dia punya maksud OECM, dan kita boleh nampak dia punya difference. What is an OECM? What is a protected area? Kalau OECM ni panjang lah, so you can see it's adopted in the CBD COP decision 14.8. OECM ni geographically defined area other than a protected area. So it's not a protected area, so it's an other outside of a protected area, okay? Which is governed and managed in ways that achieve positive and sustained long-term outcomes for the in situ conservation of biodiversity with associated ecosystem functions and services, and where applicable cultural, spiritual, socio-economic and other locally relevant values. So definition dia panjang betul lah. For me, it's quite hard to understand, but what the IUCN kind of, when they approach this in terms of identifying the criteria of what can be an OECM, they took elements of the definition and jadikan dia sebagai criteria. I will show it later on lah. So ini yang adopted lah at international level. National level boleh ikut juga, but it's depending on country whether or not they want to agree to this definition ataupun membuat definition sendiri. Tapi tidak boleh lari lah terlampau banyak. So although in terms of kami punya project, kami perlu tengok in terms of the policy and how Malaysia can adopt it. Cuma we did not so much lah because we were confined by the project timeline, tidak boleh extend so much further. But we recommend is obviously this has to go up to ministry punya level lah, and it's up to ministry level dengan perbincangan with different departments and stakeholders whether or not Malaysia wants to adopt this definition ke tidak, ataupun they want to come up with their own definition. Okay, next please. So OECMs ni is actually looking beyond protected areas. So far, kalau protected areas ni kita selalu kalau di Sabah, totally protected areas. So those are protected areas, class 1 forest contohnya begitu. Kalau Semenanjung, dia protected areas lah, dia bukan TP. Dorang tidak panggil totally protected areas, protected areas. So OECMs ni, kawasan-kawasan yang tidak dikenali sebagai protected area, tidak digazet lah oleh government sebagai class 1. Class 1 memang tahulah objektif dia memang conservation, biodiversity. Kawasan itu penting untuk tumbuh-tumbuhan tertentu, untuk haiwan-haiwan tertentu. So this is other areas. So kita tengok sini in terms of watershed ataupun water catchment. Can this be an other area? Can this be an OECM? Because kebanyakan mungkin ada juga water catchment ataupun watershed area yang contohnya banyak biodiversity dalam situ. Mungkin dia punya main objektif dorang jaga sebagai sumber air, supply air, tapi banyak haiwan-haiwan, tumbuh-tumbuhan yang penting di situ. So mungkin boleh dikenali sebagai OECM juga. Okay, next please. So di peringkat antarabangsa IUCN level ni, dorang sudah keluarkan technical guidelines, methodology macam mana mau assess, semua lah dorang memang bagi step by step of how do you do it. Memang actually boleh apply sendirilah. Cuma kami test out dari we test whether or not it can be applied to sites here in Malaysia. Dia punya kriteria sesuai atau tidak, methodology dia sesuai atau tidak. So we tested out using these two main documents ini. Saat yang sebelah kiri sekali itu dia punya technical guidelines. Dia akan bagi kriteria dan explanation of each of the criteria. Methodology itu selepas kita go down to the sites, we identify based on the criteria all the supporting documentation, all the interviews, all the data yang kami receive tu. kita plug it into the methodology. We test it one by one. It will generate an answer whether or not it can be an OECM or not an OECM. Okay, next please. So I said tadi, ni definition dia quite complicated juga untuk fahami. Tapi what the OECM did was they took the elements of the definition and they made it into criteria. Criteria untuk identify areas that can be an OECM. So the first criteria, dia cakap sini geographically delineated. Maksudnya kawasan itu perlu ada boundary. Kamu kena tahu sempadan kawasan itu. So contohnya sempadan dia macam kamu boleh some areas dia mungkin ada simpan batu, ada signboard, ataupun mungkin in terms of map kamu tahu exactly mana kamu punya boundary. So the first criteria itu kamu mesti ada boundary kawasan itu. Kriteria seterusnya dia mesti ada governance and management. Maksudnya dia perlu ada pentadbiran dan pengurusan. Perlu ada orang yang mentadbir dan perlu ada orang yang mengurus dan perlu ada objektif pengurusan. That kawasan walaupun dia penting, dia tidak boleh dibiarkan begitu saja. Contohnya lah untuk sebagai dikenal pasti sebagai OECM. Kalau kawasan yang terbiar saja tidak ditadbir, tidak diurus, tidak boleh jadi OECM sudah. So there must be like a body or a person, a community, for example, a government body, NGO, for example, a private company yang mentadbir dan mengurus kawasan tersebut. Dan paling penting untuk OECM ni, dia mesti ada biodiversity value. Kawasan itu perlu ada biodiversity. Kalau tidak ada biodiversity, memang tidak boleh jadi OECM lah. So biodiversity itu dalam technical guidelines dengan metodologi, dia ada bagi contoh-contoh. Contoh paling penting, kawasan tu, dorang kena ada RT, Rare, Threatened or Endangered Species. Spesies yang terancam dari segi tumbuh-tumbuhan ataupun haiwan contohnya. Ataupun kawasan itu penting untuk dihubungkan dengan forest reserve di sebelah dia. Cuma kawasan itu tidak bukannya protected area lah. Ataupun kepentingan in terms of connectivity kena ada. Contohnya begitu. So dalam technical guidelines, dalam metodologi dia memang ada bagi contoh-contoh tersebut. So kalau kita refer, memang dia ada bagi contoh untuk setiap kriteria tersebut. Okay, kalau kita mau uji dia punya keberkesanan, it's in terms of dia ada boundary, governance, dia punya governance ada, management system dia ada objektif, dia ada biodiversity value. Macam mana kita mau tengok in terms of its keberkesanan of OECM. Site itu perlu menunjukkan that the outcomes of the biodiversity value dia mesti long term. So dia tidak boleh kawasan itu dijaga cuma 2-3 tahun saja, lepas itu dibiarkan. So you need to prove that area dijaga untuk jangka masa yang panjang. Dan biodiversity value dalam kawasan itu akan maintain untuk jangka masa yang panjang. So actually quite susah to prove lah. But there are areas or sites yang memang sudah dijaga 10 tahun lalu, 15 tahun lalu, dan sampai sekarang masih lagi value biodiversity masih tinggi. So they can prove that lah. Tapi it's interesting in the case is contohnya kalau kita deal dengan local community, mungkin tidak ada documentation. Contohnya lah. Tapi kita boleh buat melalui dari segi interview lah. What has been done in the past 10 years, apa yang kamu lihat di kawasan kamu. Okay? Untuk lain-lain tu, untuk menguji keberkesanan dia, kawasan itu, site itu, dia perlu address threat. So kalau ada ancaman-ancaman di dalam dan di luar, kamu perlu menunjukkan kamu ada management ataupun strategi lah untuk mengurus ancaman tersebut. Kalau ada ancaman, kamu tidak boleh biarkan lah. Kalau ada ancaman dan dibiarkan, dan ancaman itu makin menjadi teruk, tidak boleh jadi OECM. Okay, and then sini dia cakap viable ataupun sufficient size, maksudnya kawasan itu untuk kepentingan biodiversity itu has to be, size kawasan tu perlu sesuai lah dengan biodiversity tersebut. Kalau contohnya kawasan tu penting untuk orang hutan, untuk big mammals contohnya, so maksudnya kawasan tu perlu besar lah. Kalau kecil saja tidak sesuai lah because it lari daripada dia punya biodiversity in terms of managing it. And then you need to prove that you are conserving the area and the outcomes of biodiversity outcomes is all year lah, memang sentiasa ada. So contohnya kalau kawasan itu, we were having this discussion just now with Chris, kalau plantation punya forest, kan, dia hutan. Mungkin spesies itu penting juga, tapi dia tidak boleh jadi OECM sebab eventually dia akan dibalak. So kawasan-kawasan seperti itu tidak sesuai lah untuk dijadikan sebagai OECM. Nanti at the end I'll show you one example based on case study di sini lah kami jalankan kriteria-kriteria. Okay? Dan perlu menunjukkan kamu perlu ada buat monitoring lah in terms of contohnya kamu ada buat survey kawasan tersebut untuk tengok mungkin ada haiwan-haiwan yang penting di situ. So dia kena ada consistent punya monitoring in place lah. Okay? So inilah kriteria untuk mengenal pasti jikalau kawasan itu boleh dikenal pasti sebagai OECM. So these are the main criteria. And then the guidelines tadi tu akan tunjukkan setiap ni dia akan bagi semua contoh lah explanation. Metodologi tu pun dia akan, so kalau kami contohnya pergi site, kami akan check, okay, kawasan tu dia ada sempadan kah tidak? Okay, kawasan itu ada pentadbiran dan pengurusan kah? Macam ada body ataupun unit yang menjaga kawasan di situ. Okay, ada. Mungkin dia ada objektif, dia ada nama dia punya jawatan kuasa, dia punya objektif pengurusan kawasan tersebut. Okay. Kawasan tu ada biodiversity value. Macam mana kami mau tengok? Mungkin kamu ada buat in terms of observation in the past few years ataupun kamu ada kumpul data-data. Okay. So itu the main criteria sudah boleh tik. Dan kita akan tengok lain lah yang kriteria yang kecil-kecil tu. Okay, next. Next please. Next. Okay, yang saya cakap tadi governance in terms of pentadbiran. Kalau OECM ni dia ada 4 jenis lah. So kawasan tu perlu ditadbir oleh mungkin kerajaan, badan kerajaan. Contohnya in the context of hari ni mungkin watershed or water catchment potentially could be an OECM. So kalau contohnya Miklin DID wants to submit or wants to test out OECM di beberapa kawasan watershed mereka, mereka boleh test it out. Okay, and kalau mungkin dia meet all the criteria, then mungkin potentially boleh jadi OECM. Tapi buat masa ini kita tidak ada undang-undang lah untuk mengiktiraf OECM lagi. Belum ada lagi, kita cuma test out dulu. Yang kedua, shared governance. Maksudnya perkongsian pentadbiran. So mungkin government dia mungkin ada collaboration dengan communities. Dorang bersama-sama test out kawasan itu sesuai ke tidak jadi OECM. So kamu boleh apply itu guidelines dengan metodologi masing-masing lah sebenarnya. It's quite okay lah, quite straightforward, quite easy to understand. Yang ketiga, privately governed. Ini individual ataupun organisation. Saya bagi contoh in terms of melalui projek ini privately governed areas, kami ada test out beberapa plantation companies yang ada HCVF ataupun conservation area yang dibiarkan untuk purpose of untuk inilah biodiversity value yang tinggi. Dan yang terakhir sekali adalah governance by indigenous people ataupun local communities. So contohnya ni macam ICCA punya area. So ICCA mungkin kalau dia meet all the criteria tu boleh jadi OECM juga. Tapi samalah macam ICCA belum ada pengiktirafan lagi in terms of law lah, belum ada undang-undang yang dapat mengiktiraf ICCA lagi lah di sini. Same goes to OECMs lagi. Okay? In terms of DP management, pengurusan dia, kawasan tu dia kena ada objektif. Objektif tu either primary objective, secondary objective ataupun ancillary. Ancillary ni macam objektif sampingan lah. Okay? Kalau primary objective kawasan itu, dia memang kawasan itu dibiarkan, dijaga, diurus untuk biodiversity. Pemeliharaan biodiversity. Contohnya ada ICCA, memang dorang mau protect that area because it's in terms of natural resources they're very tinggi. So it can be an OECM, possibly. Tapi dia kena test out dulu lah kriteria dan pergi ke site dan test out dulu. Secondary, dia kira secondary objective dia, main purpose dia mau jaga area tu sebagai yang saya cakap tadi water supply. Kami mau jaga kawasan ini sebab kepentingan air untuk kawasan kampung di persekitaran dia. Then the second management sebenarnya adalah untuk menjaga kawasan itu sebab dia pun habitat yang penting untuk contohnya haiwan-haiwan tertentu ataupun tumbuh-tumbuhan yang tertentu. So secondary management. Ataupun riparian buffer lah, kebanyakan macam ada yang estate plantation tu, dorang ada set aside riparian buffer, rizab sungai contohnya. Potentially boleh jadi OECM, tapi kena test out jugalah on the ground. Ancillary ni macam sampingan, dia management objektif sampingan. So dia cuma kawasan itu dijaga untuk objektif lain. So ada contoh-contoh Contohnya mungkin kita boleh test out di sini in the future in terms of sacred sites. Kawasan tu dijaga sebab ada kepentingannya kepada kebudayaan. Contohnya begitu. Tapi kawasan tu sebab kamu biarkan dia eventually macam you biarkan for 10-20 years tapi biodiversity dia sana memang blooming lah banyak sebab dibiarkan. Tapi kamu jagalah kawasan tu sebagai kawasan kebudayaan ataupun grave site contohnya. I give you another contoh, not really sacred tapi dia shipwreck. Ini marine punya area lah. So shipwreck ni kapal yang sudah tenggelam lama. This is at somewhere in the UK. Dorang biarkan shipwreck itu dalam laut. They wanted to do because of its historical punya importance lah. Macam kapal tu memang sudah dari zaman perang macam tu dibiarkan. So banyak divers dorang go down, they realize wow banyak marine wildlife dalam situ. So they decided we're going to protect this area. Kami akan kelepasi area ini sebagai OECM. Sebab kepentingan marine dia memang very very tinggi. Menjadi habitat kepada macam-macam aquatic species lah. Or there's another, I bagi contoh sini military sites, military areas. Ini macam kalau tidak silap di Canada. So ini kawasan tentera dibiarkan. So dibiarkan lama sudah. It used to be like I think padang tembak macam tu, tapi dibiarkan. And after 10-20 years they realize ada banyak migratory birds, banyak burung yang singgah di situ. When all these bird watchers they wanted to go, macam tengok kan, rupa-rupanya burung-burung ni memang yang important species of birds. So they decided, okay, we need to protect this area, but how can we protect this area? It belongs to tentera, contohnya. So we probably can use the OECM punya konsep sini lah. So these are the main kira management objective kena adalah. So kamu kena adalah objektif untuk kawasan tersebut. So it's either untuk biodiversity ataupun secondary dia biodiversity ataupun sampingan lah. Accidentally lah contohnya. Kamu jaga kawasan tu tapi accidentally dia ada nilai biodiversity yang tinggi. Okay? Tapi OECM ni dia mesti menyampaikan conservation of biodiversity. Mesti ada biodiversity. Tidak kira dia punya objektif, tapi mesti ada biodiversity. Kalau tidak ada biodiversity, tidak boleh jadi OECM lah. Okay? Next. Okay, in terms of kami punya project ni, so itu kira macam background lah. I try to simplify a little bit, tapi kita boleh bincang nanti lah. Mungkin saya, kalau face to face, saya much easier to bagi contoh ataupun explain. Untuk projek ni yang kami telah buat, ini kami punya main activity lah. First is to investigate and identify potential OECMs in Malaysia. So kami gunakan the IUCN technical guidelines dengan methodology untuk investigate, identify and explore mana-mana kawasan OECM di Malaysia ini. Yang kedua, part of kami punya project component ni, we had a consultant who is an environmental lawyer to look into the policy at international and national level where OECMs can fit. Di mana OECM dapat disebut di dalam polisi di Malaysia. Kalau tidak ada, what can we do to recognize OECMs in Malaysia? And which departments we need to get involved? Contohnya kalau terrestrial, maksudnya on land, which departments need to be involved? So mungkin contohnya lands and survey, it's under them for example. Kalau ada kawasan yang berkaitan dengan forestry begitu, mungkin mendapatkan technical advice, so we have to get them involved. So we identified in terms of what are the policy gaps or what are the policy needs yang perlu diada. So at the moment di Malaysia, itu saja yang cuma pernah kena mention under the National Policy on Biological Diversity on OECMs. Nothing else can recognize OECMs. No mention of other conserved areas besides usually now protected areas, itu sajalah. So at the moment kita tidak boleh dulu iktirafkan OECM sebab tidak ada undang-undang yang boleh mengenal pasti dan mengiktiraf OECM di Malaysia, belum ada lagi. And the last kira activity before COVID, and kalau masa during COVID tu kebanyakannya online meetings lah kami buat. Okay, next. So in terms of kami punya how do we manage this project, we have a project team by SERB. Next. And then we are supported by an advisory group. So kami tahu kami tidak boleh jalankan kerja ni, projek ni sendirilah, kajian ni. So we have an advisory group and members would be, these are people from KETSA, contohnya at ministry punya level that sits in advisory group. Di Sarawak, we have Sarawak Forestry Corporation, di sini kami ada SABC. So those are kita punya government punya focal points lah. The other members of kami punya advisory group, they're from different expertise and technical backgrounds. So all over Malaysia kami ada. Orang yang in terms of local communities punya expertise, in terms of in terms of Sarawak punya biodiversity, contohnya kalau di Sabah ni kita ada macam Sabah Parks who's involved because Ludi Apin attended at international level. So I think he's very aware of OECMs ni and he gave input to the OECM technical guidelines juga. So macam-macam lah, memang ada different backgrounds of expertise lah sitting in our advisory group ni. And then obviously then we have our stakeholders who we engage with, which is the ones like for example site authorities. When we go down on the ground, we test out the criteria. We have to go along with them lah, bersama-sama explain the process. At international level, we link up to the OECM task force. So mungkin some of you kenal Harry Jonas. He used to be co-chair of IUCN OECM. I'm not sure if he still is. No kan? He's in WWF sudah sekarang. And also, obviously we engage with other government NGOs and academia juga lah as part of the project. Okay, sekarang I akan share lah in terms of the process of OECM sini di Malaysia. What was our process? How did we do our project? Macam mana kami jalankan kami punya kajian? So kami focus is to do site assessments based on the criteria. So we evaluate whether or not the sites would meet the OECM criteria. Okay? So this is in 2019. Kami buat macam-macam stakeholder workshops. Di KK ada, di Kuching ada, di KL ada, and we did online workshops. Many consultations to tell people, okay, ada ni concept OECM. This is a new term, new concept adopted at international level, and now we're testing this out di sini. Kita mau explore macam mana OECM ni boleh fit into the Malaysian punya context. Okay, during those consultations, we presented to them the criteria. Kami ada breakout group so that they will understand more about the criteria. So they start thinking about sites mana yang sesuai untuk jadi OECM. Then we open up a call for case studies. Ini call for case studies ni online. So kami buat invitation kepada siapa-siapa untuk submit case study. So kami prepare application form lah. Dorang kena fill in based on the criteria, nama site dorang, siapakah dorang punya manager site, what is the importance of your site, begitu. So we listed down the main question dorang kena fill in, then they submit to us. Okay, call for case studies. This was in end of 2019, early 2020, and we received. Can you go back? We received 41 case studies all over Malaysia lah. Okay, and then together with our advisory group too, we went through 41 case studies with them, and we shortlisted up to 21 sites based on the main kira macam early punya assessment lah. Perbincangan di sini, belum lagi pergi on the ground, perbincangan meeting punya style macam tu. So we shortlisted 21 sites yang mungkin boleh jadi OECMs. So you can see di sini dia punya breakdown, ada government, ada private, ada community, ada shared governance. Pada masa tu lah, 2020 ya. 21 shortlisted case studies. Okay, next. So ini kami buat online tu, call for case studies. Dia boleh download itu submission form, fill it in. Masa tu kami ada buat satu juga macam engagement, ada Pakos punya event. So we sat down with the communities, bagi hard copy of the application form, sat down with them, sama-sama kami isi. Memang ada juga yang submit lah. Next. So out of the 21 shortlisted sites, we had to go through permissions process. So OECM ni pun dia memang quite strict lah on, for example, FPIC ataupun to do permissions or consent process lah, especially when it involves communities macam tu. But we applied it for all across the sites because they need to share data with us. So we have to go through a consent process, whether or not they will be able to share, and we can share that data with stakeholders later on. So when we shortlisted 21 sites, we contacted them. We said, congratulations. Now your site seems to be a potential OECM. We want to test it out further. Would you be interested to go further to the site firsthand? So we go down to the sites. We do macam interview dengan dia punya site manager. We go down to the sites and have a look at the different areas lah that they identified from the information that they supplied to us. We have to verify it lah. Bukan kami baca saja and we say, okay, boleh jadi OECM. We still have to go on the ground to see it. And then the final evaluation lah, which we will actually do by the end of this month. We will share all the 9 sites too, based on kami punya assessments, and gather feedback from stakeholders. whether or not they think that it would be an OECM ke tidak. So all throughout this process, kami guna two main documents itu, the IUCN WCPA guidance, itu the technical guidance, and only recently IUCN they recently released dorang punya methodology tool yang version 2.0. So all this while throughout kami punya project ni we use the 1.0 punya version. Dia lagi detail lah, comprehensive, and May actually just last month tu dorang release the second one. So I can tell a big difference lah, but obviously, as what I said, the project is ending, tapi the methodology yang baru ni is a bit more simple to understand. You just plug in, dia ada tick tu. It's either fulfill the criteria ataupun tidak. So you tick, and you bagi your justification. In the end, it will tell you the results lah, macam tu. Okay? Next, please. So some of the site visit yang kami buat tu, there are some sites in Peninsula juga di Semenanjung. Contohnya, ini macam this is an estate ni. So this is an estate owned by Sime Darby. Ini is in Penang, it's on a hill on Penang. So interesting. These are mostly privately governed areas lah. Okay, so it's private companies contohnya yang governing that area. Tapi kalau di Penang ni, if you've been to Penang, it's on the Penang Hill. So this is shared governance between Forestry Department Penang sama the Habitat on Penang Hill. Next. Ini pun di Jentar. Next. This is also another site in Semenanjung juga, which is interesting because the one yang this man is standing his back facing us, it's actually a forest in a university campus that they set aside for research purpose for the orang punya students. So we're testing whether or not this site would be suitable to be an OECM ke tidak. Okay? So when we evaluate all the criteria tu, ini methodology yang before May ni, it will give us, when you plug in those answer, it will generate either green, yellow, red. Green maksudnya it can be an OECM, they meet all the OECM criteria. Yellow is in between, you're not sure yet. So we need to have a better discussion dengan people, dengan stakeholders, the advisory group, whether or not it can be a green or it can be a red. At this stage, as I said, it's only exploratory saja ni. Untuk Malaysia, there is no definite. Kalau kita tidak mau ikut international punya methodology dengan criteria, then it's up to Malaysia lah. Begitu. Tapi ini cuma IUCN punya criteria dengan methodology. Kalau red, maksudnya dia ada 2 or more criteria tu kan, dia tidak meet, so automatically red tidak boleh sudah tu. Okay? Next please. Okay, ini I shared recently at the Asia Parks Congress. This is a site, if you're familiar with, some of you. Ini di Kinabatangan, Sungai Pin Conservation Area. So it belongs to Sawit Kinabalu. And they memang left this area as a conservation area, next to Pinsupu ni. So I presented this because based on the IUCN criteria dengan the methodology tu, the tool tu, when I plug in the answers, it generates a green. Meaning to say, this site satisfies all the criteria of an OECM. Okay? They had a governance and management system in place. It's private. It's governed and managed by Sawit Kinabalu, and they have a specific unit in Sungai Pin Conservation Area to manage this area. They have a management plan. Memang everything is in place. Dorang ada objective, dorang ada action plans, dorang ada strategies. They have done surveys of biodiversity plants, so they engage juga dengan forestry department, dengan local communities di situ untuk help out juga. So in terms of biodiversity values, yang important you can see, dia punya plant sama animal species, banyak yang ada IUCN red list juga situ. So you can identify that area memang quite important lah. But we need to see juga in terms of effectiveness of managing that area. So in terms of effectiveness, it's quite robust because dorang ada enforcement unit dorang sendiri to go around to make sure the encroachment tidak ada, to go around to do in terms of monitoring of dorang punya biodiversity values, monitoring of dorang punya kawasan, and they have an interagency MOU juga. So you can see that in terms of effectiveness, management, biodiversity value, memang semua ada. So it fits the IUCN OECM criteria. So this is one example lah. So far, I can share with all of you that we've mostly tested out in privately governed areas. So maksudnya kawasan-kawasan yang owned by private companies ataupun estates. Unfortunately, we were not able to test out in any community conserved areas or community areas sebab semuanya itulah yang postpone. Dorang tidak mau ada engagement throughout the COVID lah. And it needs, when we understand that if there was no engagement for 2 years, we understand that we have to restart back the process. So in terms of timeline, memang tidak mencukupi at this stage lah. But we're more than happy to share kami punya experiences from this. So ini cuma satu contoh lah of what an OECM, potential OECM would look like in Malaysia. So this is one of the contoh of the site. Next please. Okay, in terms of dia punya challenges, apa dia punya masalah-masalah, dia punya apa yang kami hadapi in terms of implementing ataupun recognizing, mengiktiraf OECM. Di Malaysia macam saya cakap tadi ni, kita tidak ada fundamental aspect. Kita tidak ada laws, regulations to recognize OECMs. Tidak ada, no mention. Who is going to recognize? We don't know. What is the mechanism in terms of legal aspect? Belum ada. So it needs to be explored further. And obviously this needs to be taken up obviously together with many stakeholders, but it must be taken up by a higher level lah. So most likely it must be taken up by the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources. They would be continuing on lah with this in terms of the regulation and laws of OECMs. They're very interested actually in terms of OECMs because they have to report back at international level. Cuma they don't really know what's the mechanism of how do we recognize that yet. So it's we have to kind of pass the baton to them lah based on our projects ini. But we'll share all of our findings from the site assessments. And secondly, in terms of the lack of understanding of OECMs, as I said, OECMs still kind of a new concept here in Malaysia. So if I had more time, obviously I'll go down more and I try to translate and explain more in BM juga, because I think that one it will reach out to greater stakeholders. Yeah, and obviously another one would be in terms of the challenge is kan, kalau kita recognize OECM, apa dia punya benefit untuk kita sebenarnya? Itu kebanyakan soalan yang kami dapat masa mula-mula dengan communities lah. Kalau kami submit kami punya case study ni, site ni sebagai OECM, apa dia punya kebaikan untuk kami? What will we get out of it? Where we don't know yet lah, because there is no mechanism, belum ada mechanism, belum dapat recognize. But I think the potentials would be in terms of if you're really, into conservation, you want to protect the area, then you're actually increasing the number of conservation areas here in Malaysia or in your state. Mungkin secondly, in terms of hopefully if KETSA takes it forward, maybe some type of funding, for example, to help communities to keep monitoring the area. My other thinking would be in terms of sekarang, because there's a lot of talks on OECMs at international level, senang untuk dapatkan funding international level. If you want to focus on OECMs, memang banyak ada. Especially in the next, berapa tahun lagi? 8 years until 2030 punya target. So they're really going out there and telling people about OECMs, you have to recognize. So I think in terms of international funding, memang banyak availability, banyak options. Okay. Next, that will be my last slide. Okay, so the opportunities ni I cakap, not really in terms of benefits untuk individual or a group, but maybe opportunities for Malaysia as a whole lah, ataupun Sabah, for example. So all this while kita tengok protected areas ni is mostly, it's all government gazetted areas, for example, forest reserves class 1. So we can include non-state actors, maksudnya other stakeholders, private owners, local communities, mixed governance, in delivering conservation outcomes juga. So we can recognize dorang punya efforts in terms of conservation. Okay? Secondly, strengthening conservation of biodiversity outside protected areas. So all this while we always tengok lah in terms of, okay, we need to increase protected area punya network, the sizes, we need to kenal pasti mana lagi areas to be identified as TPAs, for example. But we can look into other areas outside of protected areas, for example, OECMs or ICCAs, which can also help to strengthen conservation of biodiversity. And inilah yang final ini, I think kalau at government punya level, at ministry punya level, it's nice because if you achieve the targets,